symptoms of insanity. But what is it that I'm battling? Is it my mentality or the evil possessed dark entities? I've been possessing humans for centuries, but not all of these are blood soul sucking fiends. Come venture with me and I'll tell you about the so-called mysteries. I'll tell you about the lies in history. Read between the lines and you will find the truth about our minds, the truth about this so-called time. How it's a big psycho illusion. Agent is something the Matrix is choosing. Physical and spiritual is what they're abusing, using you like a pawn in chess. I won't yawn till I get that final test. How I lay to rest, yes, and I'll be at my best unless I reincarnate back into the physical, where the alien's main goal is to imprison the spiritual, to have complete control over this so-called globe, control over your soul. Why you tripping? Time is ticking. You can't be dipping when the world is flipping upside down. Look around. 2012 is happening here and now. Wow, so many are still wondering how. Pow, it's up in your face. We live amongst the alien race.
Oh, there it goes. What's up, everybody? Here, tuning in, the headquarters. We're here to expose out the truth. I'm just kidding, people. We're here to have a conversation, and this is the new show. What's that called? Because everything that we talk about, you're going to be like, what is that called? And I'm one of your hosts, So Doja, a.k.a. Joseph Hohola, a.k.a. There's 1,000 different names. And yeah, this is also the other host.
Hey everybody, this is at 6GrimX from the Dope Bro Show. Also, Delane Barham, if you've ever watched any of my other podcasts. Yeah, we came together to do this show. What's that called? For reasons that we can't talk about certain subjects on our other show, is a different style type of show. And both of us had these interests in things of a different kind of nature. Let's just say a more unique nature. So I guess starting with the podcast, any of you who have seen our sneak peek or you've seen our other show, the Drobro Show, you've heard Joe talk about the Bigfoot and the Bigfoot tits.
So I leaked a clip of that, and I was cracking a joke about how you never see female Bigfoots anywhere. And one of my friends happened to find a video. Shout out to Smokeface. He sent me a video of a guy stating he got raped by a Bigfoot female on the side of the creek, which was very hilarious video.
That
so
one
now,
was.
So my theory has been proved wrong now by one person.
So, dependent on what you believe with the original Bigfoot footage that was filmed by Roger Patterson in 1967, the Bigfoot does have breast in the video, so she's been nicknamed Patty. And according to that myth, from the guy that was there with Roger Patterson, let me see, I believe it was, I don't see it, but the guy that was there with Robert Patterson, he said he was hoaxed by Robert Patterson. And the guy who has come out since, because Robert Patterson went to his grave swearing that this Bigfoot that they saw was real. And this guy that claims to have worn the gorilla costume, which, mind you, the video to this day, even though the original footage doesn't exist anymore, and there was all these lawsuits that went through to find out that A&E were the ones who sponsored Roger Patterson to go on this expedition and rent the equipment. This female Bigfoot, according to this myth of the guy who's saying he wore the costume, is saying that he was only 5'10". So to make him look 6 foot tall, he had to wear a football helmet and a bunch of padding underneath, even footballs underneath the suit, underneath the chest to make it bigger. So according to him, it's not breast you're seeing under the suit. It's actually 2 footballs under there. And So,
Hey, since we're on that subject, also in that video, I watched it a few times about that man on the side of the creek. That poor guy. He never stated if she had breasts either, but he did say she was how did he say, biologically there.
yeah. So, okay, so let's get into what a Sasquatch is. Basically, a Sasquatch is a large, hairy, human-like creature believed by some people to exist in the northwestern United States and western Canada. It seems to represent the North American counterpart of the Himalayan region's mythical monster, the abominable snowman, or Yeti. The name Sasquatch derives from the Salish word Saksak, which means wild men. The creature is also commonly called Bigfoot. So, a Sasquatch is variably described as a primate ranging from 6 to 15 foot or 2 to 4.5 meters tall, standing erect on 2 feet.
16 feet?
15. But yeah, it's pretty close.
That's huge.
Well, because some of the females have been said to be between 6 and 8 feet. So just think that's a female. Imagine a male.
Well, that's like what, double you? How tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than double. So
that's crazy.
It says that they're standing erect on 2 feet, often giving off a foul smell, and either moving silently or emitting a high-pitched cry. Footprints have measured up to 24 inches in length, 60 centimeters, or 80 inches, 20 centimeters in width. A Soviet scientist, Boris Porshnev, suggested that Sasquatch and his Siberian counterpart, the Almas, could be remnant of the Neanderthals, but also scientists do not recognize the creature's existence. Instead, it is thought to be a hoax or an animal, possibly a bear. So I also wanted to talk about another type of being which was mentioned in the article, because Yetis, I think, are also associated to Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And the reason why I think that is because they're called cryptids, and a cryptid is an animal with limited or disputed evidence of existence in the eyes of the scientific community, basically. And so the Loch Ness Monster, all these other creatures are under here. But the reason why we wanted to talk about these is I think that
I'm in my detective mode now. We're here. We're getting to the bottom of this.
So
there's a chupacabra. There's all kinds of cryptids. Like, the list goes on and on and on.
So let me check this out. Yetis, they're just like a Sasquatch, but some say that they might be white or light brown type fur on them instead of like the darker colors of the American Sasquatch. See if this says anything, dude.
But they're like what? Like up in the. It's like basically like a like a polar bear and a grizzly bear. You know what I mean? Like one's in the mountains, you think, and the Yetis are probably like in the winter places.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But I guess this article is not really saying anything great. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Anunnaki, so there are Sasquatch-like creatures that were basically slaves to the Anunnaki. And so let me get into that. So Gilgamesh, the best known of all ancient Mesopotamian heroes. Numerous tales in the Akkadian language have told about Gilgamesh, and the whole collection has been described as an odyssey, the odyssey of a king who did not want to die. The fullest extant text of Gilgamesh's epic is on 12 incomplete Akkadian language tablets found at Nineveh in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. He reigned from 668 to 627 BCE. The gaps that occur in the tablets have been partly filled by various fragments found elsewhere in Mesopotamia and Anatolia. In addition, 5 short poems in the Sumerian language are known from tablets that were written during the first half of the second millennium BCE. The poems have been titled Gilgamesh and Huwawa, Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven, Gilgamesh and Aga of Kish, Gilgamesh and Kidu and the Netherworld, and the Death of Gilgamesh.
Where's Gilgamesh located? The Middle East, right?
In Mesopotamia. So, for those of you who don't know, Mesopotamia was the old ancient world, like Sumeria, Turkey.
You think that they were around in the I'm gonna probably butcher the word, the Tartarian days?
Yeah.
Mesopotamia, Atlantis. There's there's a few other ones, Mayans, Aztecs. You think that was all like the same time period?
So honestly, I don't know where Atlantis is over there. I just know that according to the legend that Thoth, which we want to do an episode on the Emerald Tablets and Thoth at some point. So Thoth, he's said to be an Atlantean who came down and gave the Egyptians the knowledge. And the Egyptians, they're starting their history at the same time as the Sumerians, the Hebrew, and these people in Turkey. So these poems and the epic tablets was probably the Gilgamesh who ruled in Uruk in South Mesopotamia sometime the first half of the third millennium BCE, and who thus contemporary of Aga, ruler of Kish, blah, blah, blah. So Uruk was also mentioned in the Sumerian list of kings as reigning after the flood. So this all takes place after the flood with Gilgamesh in his epic. But in there, in the Anunnaki, let's go here. It's Sumerian, and they are a group of deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. So these are what Mesopotamia is. In the earliest Sumerian writings about them, which come from the post-Akkadian period, the Anunnaki are deities in the pantheon, descendants of An and Ki, the god of the heavens and the goddess of earth. And their primary function was to decree the fates of humanity. They should not be confused with Apkulu. And the name Anunnaki is derived from An, the Sumerian god of the sky. The name is variously written. Anunnaki, Ne, Anunnana, meaning princely offspring or offspring of An.
I think I've had some Ananana. For those that you don't know, Mexicans use that word nana for slang for something.
So, bringing up the Anunnaki, they come from a planet called Nibiru, which is said to enter our solar system every 3,600 years.
Hey, is it oh man, I was literally just watching this stuff. Shout out to the Y-Files.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be your heckle fish. But I was tripping out on that whole Nibiru theories and stuff, and how it does come around the earth like every 3,600 years, and then when it, the flood happened, and then it was explaining like how everywhere. Everybody has like the same flood story. It's in the it's in the Bible. It's just different religions or cultures or whatever have different versions, but it's all the same thing. And then it was saying that's when the planet passed. I was like, oh man, that's wild.
Yeah, it's dope. That's a good story too. Good theory. So Nibiru is this planet again that enters every 3,600 years, and when it comes, according to this said documentary we were watching, the Y Files, he believed, and I agree with it, that it's a potentiality that this planet exists in our realm, but on a spiritual level, basically, not actually physically in our existence, because it would crush our planet, and it gets very close. So when we just had the eclipse recently, I don't know if you saw that footage of a guy who sent a GoPro up into space, and it shows this giant shadow, and there's the sun in the background, and they said, if this isn't the moon, then what is it that's that big? And it's gigantic. And then
so do you think it could be the planet?
That's what people are speculating. So that's why I want to also bring up Nibiru. It's supposed to be coming at some point again. I think they predicted, I can't remember the date that they predicted, but it's supposed to be coming up at some point soon in humanity's existence. The mythology is that the earliest known usages of the term Anunnaki come from the inscriptions written during the reign of Gudea in the third dynasty of Ur. In the earliest texts, the term is applied to the most powerful and important deities in the Sumerian pantheon. The descendants of the sky god An, the group of deities, probably included the seven gods who decree An, Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, Nana, Utu, and Inanna. Have you ever heard the term, Joe, called the seven godhead?
No.
So according to a myth that Elohim, and I mentioned this before on the Drobro show, but Elohim is actually, it's plural. It's not, so when we say that Elohim means God, no, Elohim was one of the gods, Yahuwah, according to the Hebrews. But according to Billy Carson, he's saying Enki and Enlil are the two sons of An, who are the devil and God in the Hebrew legend. So, anyways, the Elohim, him, H-I-M, is a plural word to the Hebrews. So when they say that, they're referring to multiple gods, many gods. So I have always heard the seven-figure Godhead, and I never knew where that came from, but I'm assuming it came from the Babylonians and the Sumerians, is what I've come to understand as I get older, and the more research I do. But I'm not certain at which point that seven-figure Godhead was adopted as a term in religions. So, although certain deities are described as members of the Anunnaki, no complete list of names of all the Anunnaki has survived, and they are usually only referred to as a cohesive group in literary text. Furthermore, Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki inconsistently and do not agree on how many Anunnaki there were or what their divine function was. Originally, they appear to have been heavenly deities with immense powers. In the poem Enki and the World Order, the Anunnaki do homage to Enki, sing hymns and praise to his honor, and take up their dwellings among the people of Sumer. Same composition twice states that the Anunnaki decree the fates of mankind. So see, Enki is the one that is, I think, the one that's God, and Enlil is the one that's supposed to be the devil.
Interesting.
So, anyways, the gist of this is, because I don't want to go and read through the whole thing, but Anunnaki's atmosphere was being depleted on Nibiru, and as they came closer to Earth, they realized that Earth was in abundance of gold, and they needed gold to fix their atmosphere so that they could breathe. So when they came down here, they needed to mine it, and at first they came.
Hey, have you ever heard of monoatomic gold?
What?
Have you ever heard of monoatomic gold? So it's a residue that grows like on gold like after years and years and years, and it's like little flakes they would take, and the Egyptians used to do it, and you would put it in like stuff and consume it to your body, and as the goes inside your body, it supposedly like activates different things and opens up higher like frequencies and stuff in your body, you know. And anyways, I was buying. They had this vitamin where you could get that stuff in the monoatomic gold, because this was supposedly reason why I bring it up. One of the reasons why they were after the gold too, like because the gold just has so many different characteristics that they can use it for, with the energy conductor of energy and all that. But anyways, this vitamin, I would take it, and it had supposedly the monoatomic gold, and it was like gold flakes that you would see. And it kind of like looked like not as thick, but like remember that aftershock drink, that cinnamon schnapps drink? You ever drank that and it had the gold flakes in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of like
Goldschlagers.
Oh yeah, Goldschlager. That's what I meant. Yeah, aftershock had the candy in it. But anyways, I used to buy this vitamin from your boy, your favorite homeboy David Icke's website. But anyways, I would take this shit. It had like sweetgrass in it. It was like a multivitamin with that monoatomic gold. And I would shit you not, I would be outside and the trees, the light, everything would get brighter and stuff. Like you would build your vision would like change.
Oh,
like,
that's dope.
Like it would like you would notice it like enhanced, like you would think clear, and it was like a vitamin, like there was like 6 or 7 different ingredients, but that monoatomic gold, I read about that in a book, and I tried that shit, and yeah, it was legit, man. I was like, dude, that's kind of wild how the gold is just used. They all want the gold. Jeez.
So gold is associated to God too in a lot of esoteric symbolism, but it's not that I don't like David Icke. It's that, like I discussed with you, Joe, is that I just feel like he's a paid liar, just like Joe Rogan. So if I
like to just give you a hard time about it.
Because so here's the thing, is that when Joe referenced this in our other show, Dope Bro Show, that he chose not to refer to them as conspiracy theories, but rather as saying truths or evidence or facts. The thing is that the word conspiracy theory was created by the government to debunk people at the time of Kennedy's assassination who were trying to provide real evidence. Now,
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that term, because so I would like to correct that shit right now too, because if it's a conspiracy, it's like people conspiring to do something. It's like we're not conspiring to anything. We're just like looking between the lines and finding different truths to what is told to the mainstream or whatever. Like I hate that when people say that. Oh, you're conspiracy, because I've been called that for I don't know, 20 something years. Joe's crazy, like well, he's nuts, and then I'm like, I look at some of the music videos I did like 10, 15 years almost ago, and I was talking about stuff that's kind of coming out that people are noticing, and it's like, I was like, who's really conspiring? The government against the people, or the people against, it's like, yeah, I ain't conspiring shit, man.
So
I'm too dumb for that, to organize everybody.
Well, so what I was saying about that is that before it was easier just to say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," and people would just be like, "Oh, you're dumb. You don't have any knowledge, anything like that." But nowadays, it has become harder because people are starting to wake up to how they've been lied to. So they have paid liars and detractors out there who come out and mix truth with lies. And the purpose of this is so that we associate truth with lies, and it's called cognitive dissonance or brainwashing.
Well, and then it's like um uh like so many different things get put out there, and then you don't know what the truth, you don't know yourself what the truth is, or question everything too. It's like, well, this makes sense, this, you know gets wild. Gets wild times with everything.
So back to the Anunnaki. When they came with this race that they had defeated that were kind of Sasquatch like, and they're strong, but they might be as strong as the Anunnaki. But they worked out this treaty where they worked together. So they brought 100,000 of them, I believe, and it was 100 Anunnaki is one of the myths. And they came down here and started mining the gold. Well, they needed more and more gold, and I think it was Enki who's the one who wanted to please his father, so he made them go into overdrive. When the slaves stood back and they were like, "No, we're not doing this." Well, they're not slaves, but they were partners at this point, and they decided to revolt. Yeah.
Are you talking about those? I can't think of the name, but they were like a different type of aliens too that used.
Yeah.
They would work for them.
Yeah.
It was on that podcast, that show we watched. I don't want to keep giving. He'll be like, "Man, these guys gave me like 20 shout outs."
No, but the importance of it is because I believe those are the things that they consider like a Sasquatch-like creature, or maybe it was the first creations. But anyways, when they got into creating man, is because they wanted to produce more gold, and through producing gold, they had to create a new species. So they mixed their own DNA with species that already exist here, because there's one excerpt from the Bible, and if you go into ancient translations and you go into other books, which I want to get into that here at some point about the Apocrypha and books of the Apocrypha. I mean, not every single book, but we'll touch on it. But so when you get into other books of scripture, when you have Cain and Abel are supposed to be two of, I believe it's 8 children that Adam and Eve had. And going to Sumerian text, when they created their first clones, the first successful clone was called Adamu, first man. And the first successful female clone was Heba, also like Eve, So
yeah.
Anyways, if they were supposed to be the first 2 humans, even if like scripture says, and they have only their children here, when Cain killed Abel, and God is basically questioning him on why he committed fratricide to his brother, he says, "If you put me back out there, the people will kill me. Those people will eat me and they will murder me." So if these are to be the only people on the planet, what people are he talking about? So according to this myth, that there was other species of man here that weren't fully evolved man. What made them evolve into the type of man that we are now is this mixture of the alien DNA with our own, or with these beings that were the first man here on this planet, that were still ape-like in nature.
Man.
I know.
You think so how long do you think till we came along? We lost all our hair and stuff.
So according to legend, that's basically how we changed overnight, how civilization basically changed overnight, whereas a progression of evolution that has been mapped out is said to happen over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. But there's a reason why it's called the theory of evolution, and creationism is still a theory, because there hasn't been that one finding that is that definitive evidence, and that's why we have what's called the missing link. And so there is a genome inside human beings that scientists don't know what it is, but they believe it's what made our brains grow exponentially. But at the same time, we have our chromosomes that are like the DNA strand. And the top parts have been cut off and capped, which proves that something did that to us genetically. Because what that allows for, because we've extended them in lab rats and mice, and what happens is they live longer, they become more immune and less susceptible to diseases and viruses. So, getting into this, once these beings created us, we started mining this gold for them to send it back. And here we get two different variations looking at the Hebrew and the Sumerian text, the cuneiform. So basically what I'm saying is that in one rendition, which is the Book of Enoch, they basically say that they're the watchers, and they say that we're going to take ourselves wives. In this other story from Sumerians, it's the Anunnaki, and they say that we will just take these women and they basically turn them into incubators for all these different species of monsters that they create on the planet.
Ugh. Yeah, I've read about a lot of that stuff, the incubators, and how they just use the women like that. It's kind of wild. I don't, but that, yeah, and it's been going on for a long time. It's kind of wild too, you know.
So
that'd be horrible.
In the Bible, they're called the Nephilim, and Nephilim are the mysterious beings in the Hebrew Bible who are described as being large and strong. And the word Nephilim means giants. Some understand it to mean the fallen ones, but this is a misunderstanding of the Hebrew. Their origins are disputed. Some, including the author of the Book of Enoch, view them as the offspring of the fallen angels and humans. Others view them as offspring of the descendants of Seth and Cain. So it's also in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. But it's definitely ambiguous to the identity of the Nephilim. And according to the book of Numbers 13:33, 10 of the 12 spies report the existence of Nephilim in Canaan prior to its conquest by the Israelites. It's also in the book of Ezekiel 32:27, and is also mentioned in the Deuterocanonical books Judith 16:6, Sirach 16:7, Baruch 3 verses 26 through 28, and Wisdom 14:6. But so the Nephilim basically
like they're like, well, and they relate to like all kind of like the giant, you know, the giant legends too, you know, throughout, you know what I mean, like,
yeah, like the Cyclops and stuff in the Odyssey.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that too, like Greek mythology and the demigods and stuff. You know, like when they were breeding with the humans, the gods or the immortals or whatever we want to call them.
So, according to the legend, is that when the angels mated with women, they gave birth to giants. And these giants at first, humans
They were
tried
the,
to
but
feed
they
them.
were the fallen angels, correct?
So basically, they're led by Yamyatsu, and he is appointed the leader of 13 wardens. And these wardens are charged by God to teach man nature, science, the stars, like astrology, math, and things of that nature, the calendar, and all of these things that we use now in modern times. But once women were around, so there's the 13 wardens plus 200 that are on Mount Hermon, so 213 basically. And there's one messenger, or Malakia, who is said to be, his name is Gadriel, and he convinces these messengers that we should mate with these women. And Yamyatsu doesn't want to make this decision unless they're going to make a blood pact. And the reason for it is he's basically like, if I do this on my own, you guys will just leave me and I'll be smited by God. But if we make a blood pact and we do this together, then it'll be all of us that fall if we fall together. And so then they descend down the mountain and they mate with these mortal women. According to this legend, they started teaching dark magics of how to manipulate the earth and its energies to these women, and different types of darker magic. So they're saying like this is where that darker knowledge and witches and things of that nature came from. Obviously, these messengers, these Malakia, are also mating with these women, so they gave birth to giants. We tried to house them and feed them the best we could as humans, but they had an insatiable hunger, it was said. So they ate everything we had, everything we grew, everything we farmed, everything we slaughtered.
Including us.
Yep. Then they began to eat us.
Oh.
It said
And they still do to this day.
It said people cried out, and that God basically chose one man, Noah, to reset the bloodline. But in the story of Sumeria, the Anunnaki had decided that they would choose one bloodline because the earth had been so muddled through all of this that it was impossible to tell what was pure anymore. So in the story of Noah, it was said that he was told 2 of each of the animals would come to him. And depending on one belief, some people say that the animals were small animals, babies, so it wasn't as if he was taking giant animals.
Hey, you know what I just thought? What if it wasn't even animals? What if he just took the DNA?
See, so that was my next one, is that's the theory
Oh, really?
that in ancient alien theory that his ark wasn't a boat, but some kind of medical housing that he could keep each of the DNAs of all of these animals on Earth so that they could genetically recreate them.
To me, that kind of makes more sense because, like, I mean, that'd be a massive ark, like, of each animal on Earth, like, and back then, and there's a lot that are extinct now. So, you know, like.
Did you know that the Noah's Ark story was, it was classified by the CIA for almost 50 years because it basically had so much evidence worldwide of potentially being true.
Of what? Of being what?
True.
Oh, being true? Yeah, I mean, there you hear that common story, like I said earlier, you hear that common story like over and over and over, like, so I would I would assume it is true, you know? Like why wouldn't you, I guess, you know? But hey, it's kind of wild how bad they censor everything for us to just have thoughts, you know? Because like, why would they want to censor something that if it isn't true?
Well, the Smithsonian's been behind the government censoring giants and giant skeletons that have been found throughout history. And if you look up some of the codes and things of that nature, including when they were talking about stealing things from native peoples, it was saying that every government institution or museum that has taken any property of said native peoples or of giants and giant proof have to return it back to where it was or disclose this information, except for in the events of it being the Smithsonian. And so again, shout out to our boy Y-Files, AJ and Hecklefish, where he also states this in one of his videos on giants about there's a pattern. And I mean, and I'm not trying to just quote him. And many conspiracy theorists, if you want to call them that, many truth seekers and people of that nature, they have come to the same conclusion. There's this path of people throughout history, institutions, people, families, whatever it may be at the time, that suppress information from the public.
Exactly. And there, yeah, and it's so suppressed, like, and it everywhere nowadays. It's kind of wild. We're gonna see how much we get suppressed.
Yeah. So, let's go to the
Hey,
book.
but they say you're not if you're getting suppressed and quiet and shit's getting noticed, then you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
So, the Book of Enoch, it talks about a lot of these things, the giants, the flood. It talks about the messengers that came from Mount Hermon. This is one of the books that are considered an apocryphal book. And apocrypha means hidden. It was a Greek word. And there's 14 books in total that were removed in the Apocrypha. When the Vatican deemed them basically non-canonical as scripture, at this point, the Hebrew people haven't even decided what was canonical as scripture when this was decided by the Vatican. But in the Book of Enoch, he talks about Noah having lighter complexion skin, like reddish hair, and his eyes were like that of the sun. So, like he's that of the child of the angels, okay?
Like
So
the Nephilim.
Exactly. So at this, I believe
That's how they, for people that don't know, that's how they describe how they look, the Nephilim and ancient legends and shit.
So I believe, like, okay, we talked about this before, that people, religion and science both agreed that people were of darker complexion in first man. So I'm thinking that the lighter complexion of us means that we still have that mixing of the angel DNA in us. And when, let's just say, a certain famous person with a mustache in history who led an organization known as the Yahtzees was
Hey, I was laughing. I got this joke going right now about that. Like, you can never wear that mustache no more. I was gonna do it this summer and see what happens at my work. But he forever like ruined the mustache. That's forever known as his mustache.
Even though it was Japanese to begin with. That's
What
where he
the-
stole
see?
it from.
That's even more hilarious.
Well, it's just like the swastika symbol was taken from the Japanese because he liked their culture, but it doesn't just come from Japan. That symbol exists in many places in the world. And I guess if we're going to get into it here, I actually talk about it a little bit in another podcast I did with the Gentleman's Bureau on the Flat Earth. There's this point at the North Pole at the Aurora Borealis where the North Star is, and you have Ursa Major and Ursa Minor that do a beautiful thing at all 4 seasons of of our year, our calendrical year. So at the four seasons, the Big and Little Dipper, they make basically the swastika in the sky. And I believe with that Polaris up there at the North Pole, that means X marks the spot. According to legend, Thoth, Mercury, Hermes, Macarius Trismegistus, whoever you want to talk about, the reason why he's standing on the world that's spinning and he's standing there like that is that's the Axis Mundi. It was said to be the portal in which one could go to traverse to commune with the gods. So either it is a portal or it's an opening to Argatha, or, I mean, there's many, many things that it could potentially be. You know what I mean?
I think it's all that. And then I was listening to something with the Yahtzee homies. they were saying I was listening to this on this podcast, but they were saying that they believe you could travel from the North Pole to the South Pole and through the center of the Earth too, like in the matter of minutes, you know, and that's how you could get from one side of the Earth to the other. And I was like, man, so it's just like it goes on and on. And then they're like the bases, you know, that they supposedly have all there too.
Yeah. So back to this guy with the said mustache. He quested after many occult and religious items. He was doing exactly what, like, the Knights Templar did. He was questing of the Ark of the Covenant, the Lance of Longinus. Supposedly he got a hold of a mandrake root that was the size of a midget. He was questing for Argatha, or the entrance to it, supposedly being down there in Antarctica with a base. I believe it was called 721 or something of that nature, but that's what inspired Operation High Jump from the American military at the time. This guy, he had a lot of occult things, and he also persecuted occultists in the camps because he wanted to know what information they had.
Yeah. Pretty wild, man.
So let's just say he was onto something or had knowledge of something.
Isn't it funny too? I've always said this too, how we mainstream and school and everything, it only teaches you really about what he was doing to, like, you know, concentration camps and murdering and killing masses of people, but it never, like, you have to really look, and then you look into it and you're like, whoa, this guy was researching this, he was doing this, he was believing this. Like, even the Spear of Destiny is another thing that kind of brings up too, that artifact that they supposedly had, which was, for those of you who don't know, supposedly the spear that stabbed Jesus that had his blood on it. So it's just kind of wild how you know, they don't teach you about the other side of what he was kind of researching into, you know.
So the Spear of Destiny is what is known as the Lance of Longinus, which I mentioned. But according to the legend, Hitler did have it. And when Germany was liberated...
Hey, you said his name. What's wrong with you?
Oh. Well, when it was liberated by the Allied troops, the Lance of Longinus, or the Spear of Destiny, was said to have disappeared. Rumor has it, it ended up in Hollywood. And I've said this before in other podcasts, but if you notice in movies after World War II, whenever they show the Spear of Destiny, it always looks the same. Now, I don't think that they're showing you the real one on TV and in the movies. But what I think they're showing you is a replica casted from the original piece. And that somebody who was in Hollywood at the time has now since acquired the original piece and has it. I don't think it's the one they're showing you in the movies.
Hey, I can't think of what it's called. But they were talking about, it's more like the trident style looking thing that was actually an ancient thing that was powerful about but kind of like similar to Poseidon's Trident.
Yeah. So the Apocrypha, which I've mentioned, and its books. So it denotes let me see. Well, so the Book of Enoch, let's just talk about that one for now.
I wonder how. I think it says we're at 58 recording, like an hour, but I don't know. That's our phone call or record. So what if it's an hour and a half? It just shuts off. Like,
no, that was that's Remo's thing.
oh,
But
so
so
we can record as long as we want on here.
yeah, basically it's just what your thing can produce, and the thing that we use for our video editor actually can do. I've done 2.5 and 3 hour long podcast and been able to post them. So, but
Well, on on my program I run, where I edit this of, yeah, I could do however long too. But I always thought there was like a timer or something, like a cutoff.
so in the Book of Enoch, it was considered basically a fable. Nobody wanted to accept it until the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And in finding the Dead Sea Scrolls, what we uncovered is that
Where were those found at?
in the Qumran caves, which were ancient. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are ancient Jewish manuscripts from the Second Temple period. They were discovered over a 10-year period between 1946 and 1956 at the Qumran caves near Ain Feshka in the West Bank on the northern shore of the Dead Sea. Dating from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, the Dead Sea Scrolls include the oldest surviving manuscripts of the entire book, later included in the biblical canons, along with extra biblical and deuterocanonical manuscripts from late Second Temple Judaism. At the same time, they cast a new light on the emergence of Christianity and on Rabbinic Judaism. Almost all of the 15,000 scrolls and scroll fragments are held in the shrine of the book at the Israel Museum located in the city of Jerusalem.
15,000.
Mm-hmm.
They translated all that.
It's not 15,000 separate books. It's just 15,000 scrolls.
So it's like 15,000 pages, right? Or kind of.
So far, from what I understand, it's 80 to 100 something books, I think. When you have like the King James Bible, only has 66 books. One of the caves actually got destroyed. The sea reclaimed it, a few of them. So there was things in these caves that we may have lost forever. That when the water touched it, it was already over. And so there was unthinkable stuff that had been lost. And what they were, for those of you who don't know, is there was a lot of persecution of people and things they might say, because when there were said powers that be that, let's just say, started ruling the world, and they were telling people what you could think, what you could believe, and things of that nature. They were killing people or unaliving people for not believing what they wanted you to. So these people supposedly hid these scrolls and these artifacts in these caves. So when I say that some of these caves had been flooded and retaken by the Dead Sea, we've lost things that we could never account for ever probably again in history. You know, these were probably the last remnants of things that somebody tried to salvage when scrolls and books were being burnt. So they restored a lot of things from these books, Hebrew names and places, the Aleph Toph, which was in the scripture over 10,000 times, but had been removed because people, when they first originally saw it, didn't understand what it meant. So they removed it from the scripture. But very important to the scripture, because it is basically the whole thing that what God tells Moses to tell the people, I am. That's what the Aleph Toph basically means. It's like that whole I am everything from the beginning to the end, every dream, every thought, every word ever spoken, every dream, or everything from beginning to end and all in between. I am that I am, or something like that. And that is basically what the Aleph Toph means. And it was at the end of many sentences in the scripture. So in the Qumran caves, they were found because some boy, he broke a jar. He was playing soccer or something, I think it was, and he broke a jar, and they ended up finding these old scrolls that since changed the way that we think about the literature, the mythology, the philosophy, all of it.
Imagine would you think, or like me, I would say, why wouldn't there be? But you think there'd be more stuff like that, like more scrolls hidden, some pieces of earth that no one has found?
I believe there is deeper.
Be kind of wild. Awesome. Hidden treasures.
I feel like deeper than what we can reach, type of deep. That's what she said.
Fuck.
So, let's see. Here. I want to go back to the Bigfoot. So anyways, with these giants, they were creating many monsters. So like Joe referenced earlier, it's that in Greek and all these other different kinds of cultures, they had monsters. You had like the centaurs, you had the cyclops, you have mermaids and things like this.
The Pegasus.
Yeah.
Hey, would you ride a Pegasus?
I think it'd be dope.
Or a dragon? Fuck.
You know, rumor has it that unicorns don't exist to this day because none of them made it on the ark.
Oh, the unicorns?
During the flood story. Yeah, that's actually a myth, dude, an actual rumor that the reason why we don't have unicorns is because of that reason, that one never made it on the ark. And so,
dang, what you think it was because it was a interbred, or was a bad animal?
It might have been one created by the Nephilim. So that's the myth, is that all of these things.
Hey, so do you think the dodo bird made it on there?
Well, yeah, because the dodo bird died when we were kids, remember? Or right before.
Oh, yeah, see?
Yeah, it became extinct.
Poor guy. Poor dodo. And you think, what about, I guess that would have been before, like the dinosaurs.
No, I think they're the Nephilim. So, obviously, this will be a disclaimer.
Oh.
What we say on this show doesn't necessarily imply that what the scientific community agrees with or historic. But the thing is I'm a creationist. I don't believe in evolution. I think we were created. And with that being said, I don't think that the timelines that they give us are accurate. And I also believe in multiple epochs of man, that we go through different stages of man, so that there's ancient architecture that exists here. There's two possibilities for that. Either man has existed before and there was a great wipeout that made us start over from scratch again, and that's why we can't explain
Yeah.
these structures.
I think there wasn't just one. Like, I think it's happened like a repeated thing that happens over and over so many times. Like, man, we get so far into things and then it's like reset, go again. But
So I believe that there's 7 stages before the reset, what you're saying. So when I said that I think that there's several stages, that's what I mean. I believe there's 7 epochs that happen for mankind. And this comes from an esoteric occult background of understanding. And so there are 7 epochs. And we are said by many cultures to be in the 5th epoch, which is always the last epoch where the reset happens, because then in the 6th and 7th epochs are rebuilding of our spiritual nature and saving and becoming these new entities to become the new age of man in the 1st epoch of the next epoch, the next 7 stages of man, if that makes sense. Okay.
yeah,
And for any of those who want to find out more about this, you can check out Rudolf Steiner, Helena Blavatsky. Many of their videos or books will give you some of that information. If you're ever into occult knowledges, you could look up Rosicrucianism and you'll find a lot of videos of interest that will take you down these similar paths. So with these epochs, we have these temples and different structures that they say are between 20 or 40,000, if not more, years old.
hey, I just shared a picture. They were digging. I don't know where it was, but speaking of what you're talking about, but it shows the building, and then they're digging down, and the building went like way down, like a skyscraper. Tartarian day
Yeah, so the
type
mud
of buildings and shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's that. I never knew about that stuff till probably like this last year, and was listening to I think his name's Eddie something. He's a martial art, but he's always with the
oh
Sam
yeah,
Tripoli. He does, that guy Eddie. He does music and everything and martial arts and stuff. He's pretty badass. But he talks a lot about that Tartarian, and I like how he does it too. He's just like, yeah, man,
Eddie
just
Bravo.
Tartarian shit, huh?
It's Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Shout
he
out to you, Eddie Bravo.
he's cool. But the reason why I always bring up the Tartaria thing is because I feel it's important, whether or not if it's true or not. It's not important about that. It is important if it is true. The important thing, though, more so, is that if what happened is that there's a country and now all of a sudden, less than 100 years, we don't even remember it. Isn't that important to ask why not? Why are there pictures and evidence of this thing that supposedly exists, maps that show Tartaria or the Tartarian Empire, people that were called the Tartars?
I was gonna say it earlier when we were talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. How it's like weird how they constantly try to erase history, and like there's history that constantly trying to tell us in the future. Like these guys are hitting like the all this not hiding all this knowledge. Like the Iraq is like one that kind of like when it clicked in my head about how when we first went over there we started destroying like all the museums and the ancient artifacts and stuff, and then like when you research over there in the Middle East, that's where what's it, submarine, you know what I'm talking about?
Sumerian.
Yeah, like a lot of history goes in that area, and it's kind of wild to me how they just like why are you guys trying to destroy history? Why are you guys trying to lie to us, man? Like, what the hell?
So, like with that is, according to the Iraq War myths, when we went into there, remember we were supposed to go into Afghanistan, and yet we ended up in war with Iraq because they supposedly had weapons of mass destruction that we never found. But the rumor is that, and if you look at it, we made a beeline straight to the museum, and at the time, Iraq had made a miraculous discovery of the tomb of Gilgamesh, and they were going to unveil this stuff, including the body of Gilgamesh. We were going to unveil this stuff to the world, and due to rumors of a certain Clinton, I don't want to mention the full name, but this certain person had evidence of existence of Nephilim tied to the story of Gilgamesh, and sent our troops in there on a straight beeline to the museum where we looted all of it and took all of that into U.S. custody.
Hey, do you know about the how he supposedly had a Stargate there too, and he was using that, and they didn't, and we were like,
And again, people, we're saying allegedly. We don't have the exact proof or evidence to be able to,
yeah. Hey,
to understand or believe this, but allegedly, these
hey,
are the things that happened.
this is stuff I would never want to see with my own eyes. I don't want to know for reals, but yeah, allegedly.
So, back to the Bigfoot then, is that here in the U.S., it's said that where they're predominant. As I was reading earlier in the article, that Yetis or abominable snowmen are mostly found in the Himalayas or in snowy type areas like that. But wow, so okay, there's quite a few places that the Bigfoot's been seen. The most sightings are in California, Oregon, Washington, Michigan. Looks like
I wonder where that guy that
Colorado is like second. We're in the seconds, like with Oklahoma and stuff.
Bro, Colorado is a trip. They even brought it up again.
New Mexico's in the middle where you're at. They're in the middle. Because, see, they have 5 things of rating. So 5 colors. It goes from bright orange to like an orangish brownish to a brown to a navy blue to a light blue. So orange being the most sightings and the light blue being the least sightings. So New Mexico is the brown and Colorado is the orangish brown. So the second, but New Mexico is the third.
Wasn't that guy on that video, wasn't he from Colorado?
I think so. But what you guys also have is another famous cryptid, which we should do an episode on at some point, which is the Skinwalker.
Oh, bro, skinwalkers are crazy, dog. Like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, I've seen some wild stuff down here myself, man. Like, it's pretty wild. Especially this town is pretty wild here.
So, dang. Washington has had over 800,000 sightings, basically.
But
like 800,000.
I would figure like the pattern is like they like the mountains, the forest, the trees, that type of nature. It seems like, you don't see them in the city.
I guess it's 676. No. The numbers they have on here kind of confused. They have sightings per 100,000, and they have it at 8.9, but I was reading down here with 676 sightings reported. Washington is your far best chance to get a fuzzy photograph of our famous friend. The Green State gets 8.9 sightings for every 100,000 people. Those are pretty good odds. California is number 2 with 445 sightings.
Well, and they got the redwoods there.
Yeah. Florida, I'm a little shocked with
What?
3.
Florida's on there?
Yeah. Ohio has 302, but the Ohio River and stuff like that, I could believe that. Illinois, 296. Oregon has 254. Texas has 246. Michigan has 220. And Missouri has 154. And then, how funny. The state with the fewest Bigfoot sightings by population is number 1 is Nevada. Number 2 is and with 9 sightings. Number 2 is Rhode Island with 5 sightings. Massachusetts, yeah, and then how does that work? It's because it's by population. So that's why the number 1 and 2. Massachusetts is number 3 with 35. Connecticut 4 with 18. Delaware 5 with 5. Maryland is 34 with 8 at 8. New York at 9 with 113. Mississippi at 10 for 23 sightings. Nebraska at 11 with 15 sightings, and North Dakota at 12 with 6 sightings. But again, this is based off of population, so that's why the numbers seem weird. Happy Sasquatch sightseeing. And
What's the craziest thing you've seen up in the Colorado mountains?
So actually here in Colorado, there's been 128 sightings, and in New Mexico, there's been 42. But
No, but I'm saying, what's the craziest thing you ever seen? Like, for example, one time I was driving up Boulder to Flagstaff to go watch the sun come up on the mountains, and a big ass mountain lion just walked right like at a diagonal right in front of my car, and it was as big as my car and could have easily took out my car. So I said, screw that, I ain't going up to the mountains, and I turned around and went home. But that was the wildest thing I've seen in the mountains. and it was huge. Like it ain't like the lions you see in the zoo. Like, this thing was like massive. There was like no way you could fight something off like that.
so I've seen moose too. Those things are freaking gigantic.
Oh, right.
And up
like-
close and personal, dude. My wife's sister and her friend, her girlfriend, they were over there picking up rocks. And this big ass thing, dude, it was almost 12, 13 feet tall. Smacking the branches with its fucking antlers. And this girl, she's laying on the ground. I thought she was being weird or something. Laying there with binoculars like this, and she's like telling my wife's sister, my sister-in-law, that I don't mean to alarm you, but there's a moose and her baby and the buck there.
Oh, heck no.
Starts screaming and running back to the car.
Oh, shit.
Massive though.
Hey, speaking of moose real quick, I don't know have you ever drove on Raton Pass, like where on I-25 it crosses into New Mexico to Colorado? Well, that's a very dangerous pass. You see signs everywhere. Moose, bears, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But being that you brought up a moose, a truck or something must have hit it. But me and my cousin were flying back to Denver from New Mexico, and we were late at night driving, midnight or so. I'm flying, and there it was, dead in the road, just laying down, but it like covered almost the whole road. I had to literally like drift around it, like fuck, and go and then my cousin was asleep. He had a bald head. He was like boom, cracked his head real hard because I was like, oh my god, like it was because it almost took up the whole road. Like I barely got around it without crashing or going off the mountain right there, man. And I was like, them moose are huge.
Yeah.
Nature's wild, man. Like bears always trip me out. Like I'm like, oh heck no. Like, uh. Speaking of bears, did you see Cocaine Bear? Man, that was an educational movie.
No.
Oh man. All right, but back to the but yeah, no man, it's pretty wild. I would hate to see a Bigfoot. Hell no. But I
I'm
don't know.
obsessed with them.
Uh,
There's that casino over here at Blackhawk that has a Sasquatch. It's got a Sasquatch butt. You rub for good luck, and then giant replica Sasquatch that somebody made. Freaking sick. They have pictures of it, how they made it and stuff. Made it like a taxidermy thing. It's
yeah,
tall.
yeah.
I have photos of it, but it's gigantic, and I wish Gio could see it because it's freaking hilarious. He loves Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Anytime, excuse me, we're in the woods, he's always like, "Is Bigfoot here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably hiding somewhere out there."
Mm. They're always watching us, man. Like,
So with something like that, if it has been around since the time of our creation, okay, according to these cuneiform tablets and according to the Book of Enoch, if things like this have existed, that could potentially have existed. By this point, they're living in places we don't go a lot, like mountain caves, even in stories of, and I'll only reference it here because I'd like to talk about it more in depth at another time, but the Canadar incident where the U.S. military encountered 7-foot tall red-haired giant who killed some of the soldiers, and they killed him and took a
what?
mallet that was 9 foot long, and this thing was in the fetal position, having 2 rows of teeth. Yeah, pretty crazy incident. That was
Where was that at?
Canadar, which is in Afghanistan. So during the Afghanistan,
Oh, what the heck?
yeah, and it said that they encountered a red-haired giant. So they're still around. So, anyways, these beasts,
What?
these things,
I didn't hear about that.
they exist in rainforest, forest, caves, in high mountaintops, in snowy Alps, and things like that. So these are not areas that are highly populated by people. And I think that if you existed here as a population over centuries, by now they've learned how to avoid human contact unless they want it.
Hey, you ever seen that video of the giant? He had like long hair too, and he's like doing push-ups on a hill.
uh,
Bro, that looked crazy. It was on TikTok. They're like, what's he getting ready for? He's all doing push-ups. I was like, oh man, them giants are built like that too. Oh heck no, they're gonna tear us up.
so there was the red-haired giants that were told by a native tribe here in the U.S. and I can't remember their name right now. Let me look this up.
Hey, I think I heard about that too. Probably on the
Talked
Wii
about
files.
aliens. They talk about it on Y files. These were in Nevada. Okay, so it was in Lovelock Cave. Hold on, just waiting for this article to load. It's the red-haired giants of the Lovelock Cave. Yep, it was the Paiute tribe. That's what I thought it was. I didn't want to misquote it. So in 1911, miners discovered the remains of giant red-haired mummies and thousands of artifacts. The artifacts were excavated and dispersed to several museums, but the mummies disappeared from public view. What happened to the giant mummies and why they were hidden from the public? This is about a book somebody wrote. Let me see. They were called the Saitaka, which is Saduka or Sai, and it said that they were a legendary tribe who the Northern Paiutes fought a war with and eventually wiped out or drove away from the area. In the final battle having taken place at what is now known as Lovelock Cave, near Lovelock, Nevada, United States. They had red hair and are often, though not always, described as having been cannibals. In some versions of the legend, they were giants. In 1911, a large amount of artifacts and mummified human remains were discovered under 3 to 6 feet of guano in the Lovelock Cave. So, because the guano preserved some of the bodies, they were literally mummified, and there were giant skeletons there, 7 to 9 foot tall or something like that, it said. But obviously, since the stuff never made it to the human public, it's only the people who are saying it.
Yeah.
The evidence. But they did prove this Paiute legend because, according to the legend, there was a war and they were being eaten by these giants who kept coming out and attacking them. So they tricked these giants into going into a cave. They forced them deep into a cave and they stacked all of this brush and dry brush at the entrance of the cave and kept stacking it and stacking it. Then they lit a giant fire and they kept feeding the fire for many days till they were sure that these giants had died, and they executed this whole family of giants basically. And when they discovered this cave, they said that there were scorch marks at the entrance of it, synonymous with having a fire that was a very large, very, very, very hot fire. And that they found red-haired giants with 2 rows of teeth, just like is part of the legend, and 6 fingers and toes.
What? That's kind of wild.
Just like the Canadar giant had 2 rows of teeth and 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Man.
And red hair.
2 rows of teeth?
I'm going to have to send you some stuff on the Canadar giant after this.
I mean, it's like they used to probably just eat through everything. Animals, humans.
We have a few minutes probably. I'm going to go ahead and look this up. Why not? Instead of wasting an episode on it, we're actually talking about giants and stuff now. And I mean, it wouldn't be wasting it, but
that stuff's wild though, huh? I'm like, for those of you who don't know, I'm like short as hell, so I couldn't imagine dealing with giants.
okay, so the Canadar incident. The Kandahar massacre, also called the Panjawi massacre, was a mass murder that occurred in the early hours of 11 March 2012 when United States Army Staff Sergeant Robert Bales murdered 16. No, that's not it. Really? That's what they're showing? Let's see. Hey.
Yeah. I didn't fall asleep. I'm here.
No, you're good. My daughter was just telling me she was leaving, but I was also trying to find this because obviously there's another incident that happened in Canada which involved an American sergeant who unalived some people. I'm trying to look at this.
I heard not Canada, but I heard like they were running into like odd, different creatures that they never seen before out there in the desert when we were over there in Afghanistan.
Yeah, like Jinn.
What? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then they ran into Aladdin
Mm-hmm.
and the flying carpet.
Yeah.
That was a joke, folks. We're just making sure you're still here with us. And you're not overloaded with information.
So, um, uh, never mind. It's hard to find it because of stupid things like this. Because of
And then everything's censored on there.
yeah,
So you gotta go through like DuckDuckGo. Can't go through Google.
yeah, but even they're bought up too.
It gets complicated.
Okay, let's look it up now.
All right.
Okay.
Am I there still?
Yeah. No, you're
Oh.
not showing up on the video. No. So in
Oh.
2002. So
I'm
this.
back. I took off to outer space real quick. I jumped into the picture. I came back.
So, damn. This happened the year I graduated. 2002, an elite tactical team was said to have killed the Kandahar giant, a 13-foot tall beast with flaming red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 sets of teeth. In in 2016 of August, a YouTuber posted a lengthy video with the military contractor identified as Mr. K in the interview. Mr. K claimed to have been present during the brutal slaughter of a killer he called the Kandahar giant. The killing of the giant, he said, took place at the height of the Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002, when the military was engaged in fierce battles with the Taliban in their de facto capital in Kandahar province during the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. The Kandahar giant, Mr. K said, was 13 foot tall, with fiery red hair, 6 fingers, and 2 sets of teeth. It even killed one of the Special Forces soldiers with a spear before the rest of the unit brought it down with 30 seconds of sustained gunfire. And after they radioed it in, the army took away its corpse and it's been hidden ever since. In 2000, a group of soldiers went missing while on patrol in a remote mountain region of Kandahar in the south of Afghanistan. And when they failed to make radio contact for some time, the military sent in a special ops unit to investigate through the branch of an armed forces they belonged to was never confirmed. In the mountains, the unit came across a cave with scattered army equipment around, but no sign of the missing soldiers. And that's when they chanced upon the Kandahar giant. Though the tale grows with the telling, with some reports suggesting that the humanoid grew as tall as 15 feet, with this red-haired giant with 6 digits leather moccasins and smelling like dead bodies suddenly emerged from the cave and impaled one of the soldiers with the spear. And that's when the soldiers opened fire, ultimately felling the giant with 30 seconds of continuous fire. Between them, the squad was armed with full auto M4 carbines, recon carbines, semi-automatic, and M107 Barrett anti-material rifles firing 50 BMG, reads one report. This much firepower concentrated on one target for 1 second, let alone 30, would be extremely destructive. After the troops killed the giant, they loaded it into a Chinook helicopter, which carried it to the transport plane, where no one ever saw it again. The soldiers were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements so the government could keep them all quiet. But eventually the soldiers broke their silence because, as one of the men would say, the people have the right to know the truth. In 2016, Snopes reached out to the Department of Defense about the Kandahar giant incident. The Department of Defense told the outlet in no uncertain terms that they had no record of information about a Special Forces member killed by a giant in Kandahar.
Hey, do you think they well, I guess it's public knowledge out there, but what do you think they tell the family? Hey, he was over there, or if he even had family. Probably most of those special forces people probably don't even have family.
So they would just tell you your family that you died a different way, like this article's starting to kind of describe. But what it's not saying is, I've seen something at one point that the guy who flew the helicopter came out and talked about it, and all he could say is when they picked it up and when they dropped it off. Outside of that, he had no other seeing or contact with this thing. But he said his skin was already turning blue by the time they landed, and it had long red hair and a long red beard, 6 fingers and toes, and 2 rows of teeth. He said they had this thing on a 9-foot pallet. It was about 9 foot long, the pallet. So he said this thing was laying on it in the fetal position. Based off of what he could see, he said it looked like, and because it's in the fetal position, so you're not seeing it standing straight up, but he said from what it looked like laying on a 9-foot pallet, it appeared to be 12 to 15 foot tall.
That's wild, man. And not only, and what, so when was Afghanistan-ish?
2002 is when this took place, dude. Like I said, in August. And that's what I'm saying is that this happened in the year I graduated. How crazy. No, it doesn't say August. It just says in 2002 during the mission of Operation, what the hell is it? Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002 is when this incident took place. But this happened in the Kandahar Mountains, in the caves in the mountains, dude. And according to the story, which they don't get into, some of the military men would always hear these stories from the Afghan troops that we were working with about the legends of the giants in the caves that would come out at night and steal the men, and they would eat them. And that if you saw a cave with bones outside of it, stay away from it. That's what they would tell the men.
When was that?
Huh?
Oh,
That's in the actual story. If you can ever.
oh, right there?
No, it doesn't say it here, but I've seen this story so many times. I've actually covered it on other podcasts. But this story is, like I said, it's from 2002 is when it supposedly happened, but the story came out in 2016. So the story's only been public knowledge for, we're in 2024 now, damn. So 8 years.
Damn, so that's messed up. They kept it hidden for, so many years, just like more and more knowledge, Just keep it hidden from us.
So
I think we should know. What if they come out, that's a threat in the future? We get eaten again.
So this guy, this Mr.
Wait,
claimed
what
that
kind of guns? You said they used the M4?
yeah. So
I need to make sure I get the right amount of guns.
The guy, that Mr. K guy, he claimed that the guy who died by the spirit, his name was Dan. Okay, but this guy that is named Dan that died in Kandahar around the time of this alleged incident was Sergeant First Class Daniel A. Romero, who was supposedly killed in a bomb blast alongside 3 other soldiers.
Damn. My out
And
of
so after this incident, okay, and it's said to be a myth and an open secret among soldiers who served in Kandahar in 2002, but after this, they said that they were trained to shoot in the heart and the head of a man and then shoot above the head of a man. And everyone questioned, why do we shooting above the head of a man? But after people started talking about the Kandahar giant, they started to realize that's why they were teaching them to shoot like that.
pretty wild. Hey, I had a friend that was over there in Afghanistan, and he said he was just scared of the camel spiders. You ever seen those things?
Yeah, those things is hell.
Yeah. He said he'd be laying in the sand, out there patrolling or whatever, and he said you hear him at night running around. He'd be like, "Oh hell no!"
I heard that too.
Man,
but what do you think? Any thoughts?
That's just wild, dude. That would just kind of scares the shit out of me. Like, especially like that story is like real, I mean, 20 years ago, 2002, but that's still fairly new. You know what I mean? And I've seen a lot of, like I said, it's just kind of funny the information that kind of comes across, and it's just kind of wild, the whole giants and I think there's like different types of probably like species of the giants, like there's probably like the Yetis, there's the Bigfoots, there's the, long hair, red-headed ones.
So this goes back to the Nephilim, right? And angels first mating with us. So according to the legend, right, you have different messengers that have different traits. So for instance, if you were descended from the bloodline of Raphael, it was said that you would have pale skin and red hair, right? So
Yeah.
he claimed he was descended from the angel Raphael, and the royal family, they have claimed descendancy from Raphael. Isn't that weird that there's these traits that stand out?
Right. Yeah.
And then you have Theosophy, which tried to define that there is a racial evolution as well, a cultural evolution that happens spiritually throughout these epochs of man, and each of them different. And that's why as you incarnate into these different lives, you're bringing with you different knowledge that accumulated from different cultures.
Man.
But I think that's a good stopping point.
All right.
So we can leave more to want.
Yeah, nah. We'll get more into it, everybody. There's just so much to unpack and uncover for just one episode. That's why you see people with thousands of episodes of wild stuff. I was laughing because Mr. Rogan was saying how he didn't really start to see money or anything until he was in the 2000 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I said 2000. I was adding that up. I was like, dude, there's only like so many, like 300 something in a year. So that's years, of doing that daily. Man, maybe even sometimes twice a day, huh? Man. But for all you people,
it would be nice. We definitely want to unveil the truth here.
Yeah, no, to me, even when it goes with my music, I've never been about the money. It's always about just getting the truth out. Like, for those of you who don't know, like I do a lot of music, and one of the things that makes me a controversial artist was hitting them with different truths and realities that people don't speak on, and that's what we're trying to do here too, is kind of speak on stuff that's not really spoken about, like the giants, don't talk about those. Like, I mean, if there are giants, we should be prepared and we should know how to battle against such things, especially if they do start getting hungry and eating humans again, and history repeating itself with some madness. It gets crazy.
The battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities.
Right. So this will be the first episode for everybody to What's That Called? And we will be posting these up as soon as we make them, and you guys be on the lookout. This is just the beginning, and we got a whole lot more to uncover and talk about.
And this is going to be found on our respective channels. Even though we're both on the Dro Bros show, it's more like a Dro Bros affiliate.
Right. Yes, exactly. Affiliate Dro Bros. We got a lot going on over there too with our homeboy Remo. Shout out to Remo. Oh yeah, and I wanted to give a shout out to this fresh hat that I got from Rebel Roadrunner over here in Tennessee. If you ever come down here and you need the best souvenirs in town, you go to Rebel Roadrunner. Hey, funny story. I'll tell you real quick, and everybody. She ordered New Mexico hats, and they sent her a Colorado hat on accident, and her New Mexico hats to sell in her store. So she hit me up and was like, "Hey, I know you're from Colorado, so here's a hat." She gave it to me for free.
No.
So I was like, thanks. So that's why I want to give you a shout out. But anyways, on that note, we'll be giving a lot of people shout outs. We'll be back for more. Let you guys know some more. We're gonna post this up everywhere as we can and
leave suggestions in the comments below.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye, guys. Hell yeah.
Why you tripping? Time is ticking. You can't be dipping when the road is flipping upside down. Look around. 2012 is here and now. Wow. So many are still wondering how it's up in your face. We live amongst the alien race. Trust me, peasants, you can easily get replaced. In case you didn't know, go with the flow, with the universal, with the soul.